Hi, hello everyone, and just testing audio and video. Everything looks good.
Yep, sounds good, looks good.
Perfect, perfect. So we'll just start, and I'll just keep going. Please bear that I don't have access to the chat at this moment, so we can leave it at the end of the presentation. But I'll just try to make it as easy and easy to check and review as possible. But anyway, I'll just go, and this will be similar to your economics class, but I'll try to make it, probably put it to the ground so we can review, what opportunities are there for in South America for you. So it's a wide area. It's a very wide area. So why am I giving this presentation as I'm gonna say? Well, basically, I am in Emalinks. I work for Emalinks. We are the uh, uh, representative for WUSARA in Mexico, and we manage other programs in Latin America. We are a go-to-market consulting firm. So we do different services. We provide market intelligence, we provide trade servicing, consumer programs, trade marketing strategies, PR and communications. But basically, we are the one hosting you uh, when you come to Mexico and some parts of Latin America, or we take the buyers to you we do the missions, and also we provide market information to you, and basically we review the opportunities and help guide you through the process of exporting more to Latin America. Anyway, we'll talk about South America, and again, this is a very again a wide area. We're talking about 6.8 million squares, almost twice the size of the US. And I know the US is a big country, but this is a continent. This is a subcontinent where you have 434 million inhabitants, 30% more than the US. But again, it's a different culture, and basically you're talking about 4,000 miles around, 3,500 miles from LAX to Bogota, and 6,000 miles to Sao Paulo in Brazil. So again, usually we don't mind the distances, but we need to take this into consideration. This is again a big area. The GDP is $4 trillion, twice Canada or 2.5 times Mexico. And again, it's far. It's formed by 12 states or 12 countries that you can see listed here. The most representatives or the most that you have seen is Colombia with an O. And again, just a quick fact: Colombians don't like when when US call them Colombia with a U, so it's Colombia. Brazil, you have Ecuador. You have the list here: Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Uruguay, and Venezuela. All these countries are in the process of turning 200 years old. So again, the economy, the history that these countries have is very different, and it's very extensive. So basically, they have similarities as any Latin American country, but bear in mind that they cannot be considered as one country. It's not just south of the border, everything is Mexico or everything is Brazil. Each country has its customs, its laws, its imports laws, its consumer habits, and a very unique culture that, again, even though you may have similarities, you cannot tell that to a Brazilian that is similar to a Colombian, or a Colombian that is similar to a Venezuelan. So again, we need to take this into account. And basically, that's something that we have seen commonly, that there is a generic sense and a generic knowledge of these countries, and we ask you to identify them and investigate more about each country. There are three other, territories. Falkland Islands. You've heard, back in the 80s, you heard about this conflict between Argentina and the UK. South Georgia and South Sandwich Islands, and French Guiana, which is a French colony that is basically on top of Brazil. And well, yeah. So as I mentioned before, you can see that it looks close when we see it in a map. But if you travel to Brazil or you travel to Chile or Argentina, is 11, 12 hours, 14 hours, different time zones, 5, 7 hours. So it's similar to going to Europe. And there are things that have obviously European influence, but it's different. It's not. This is not Mexico. That's something that we have to be very, very clear. It's not Central America, and again, each country is separate and is different. Here I listed most of the cities that you can see, and again, even though we have 12 countries and 3 territories, I will focus on 5 countries, four or 5 countries in general, so we can see the differences and the contrast and try to rank the markets. Obviously, there is opportunity in every market, but opportunities can be harder in each of them, and also the market sizes are different. You have Brazil, which is the largest country, and I'll explain a bit about it. You have different cities, Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Brasilia, Salvador, Fortaleza, and even into the country, they had different customs. So if you tell a Carioca, somebody from Rio that he, looks like somebody from Sao Paulo, he'll get angry. There are again differences between one and the other. There is identity as Brazilian, but also in the region that they are. Others is not as marked as Brazil, but here you will find it. Then you have Chile, Santiago, which is the capital. Actually, this is where some of the opportunities are growing. Peru, which is in Lima. Lima, Peru is here. You can see Peru here, Santiago here, the narrow country. Argentina with its capital Buenos Aires facing the Atlantic and Rio de la Plata, and Colombia here in Bogota, which is in the middle. This is the closest capital next to Ecuador, but it's the closest capital to the US. So that's where we have done some trade missions, and actually where we're focusing bringing more buyers or getting contact with more buyers in that country. Now, again, this is not Mexico. Mexico, as I mentioned in other seminars, if the ones that have been here, obviously we have been neighbors and partners for 200 years. Here, there is a difference because even though there is closeness and there is fondness to the US, they are not as close as Mexico. So there are differences, and also the production in these countries are in most cases counter season the US, because all of this is in the southern hemisphere. If you remember, the spring in the northern hemisphere will be the fall in the southern hemisphere as summer and winter. So basically they have Christmas during the summer. So that obviously changes, the agricultural cycle. And while we have production from August through September, they will have it at the beginning of the year. So that changes the supply and also changes, the sourcing from some countries. And also we have to take into account, and I'll talk about it later, that bringing the product from the US to Mexico or Guatemala has a factor of cost per pound per mile, which changes dramatically where you're trying to ship the product, let's say to Mexico City, or you want to ship it to Santiago, Chile. You're talking about, I don't know, 5,000 miles, and that will increase the logistical cost. Again, I don't mean to discourage you, just give you the facts. Now, the economy in South America, basically this region represents 4% of the global economy. Roughly the global GDP of the world GDP is $98 trillion. South America will represent 4%. So if you can see it graphically, they're not as big as others. So it can be considered as Africa or ASEAN. Asia obviously is the largest. North America, it considers the US, Mexico, and Canada, and Europe, which is more split between the countries and the economies. But here you can see that, in GDP, you have these six countries that make the most. And obviously Brazil is the largest with 2.7 trillion GDP in general. Now, the first how can I say instinct would be to go directly to Brazil because it's the largest country. Well, careful, because it's the largest country, it has a lot of production and sourcing, and they have a lot of protective laws for international trade and also in taxation that can increase. So again, Brazil could be the first option, but they are maybe not the best partner especially if you're starting business in South America or if this is your first entry point. We would recommend considering instead Chile, Colombia, or Peru before getting into Brazil, because Brazil is a harder market. It's more mature, is more aggressive, and also has some some regulations that can affect smooth access to this market. Here's GDP, so you can make comparison. And basically, this is all Latin America, or at least the top, I would say, top 20 countries in Latin America. Here you see Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. Then you have Colombia, about 1/4, 1/5 of the largest economy. Chile, Peru, Dominican Republic, etc. Something to notice in these economies is that Brazil is a more, again, a more diverse economy. It's a powerhouse. They have a lot of production, industrial, energy consumption, etc. So again, it's big. Then you see Mexico, which is not in this region, but I put it as reference. And then you start having the smaller countries, and I mean this with the utmost respect if we have Argentinian, Colombian, or Chilean attendees. But Argentina, Colombia, and Chile, Argentina and Chile especially, are a more centralized market where you have big cities or big urban centers that they consolidate most of the consumption and trade, even though you have production in some other areas. Colombia is a bit more spread out. You have more cities and more, diversity in the production and the consumption. But here you can see the comparison of countries. Again, if we match them with our Western U.S. companies, these countries may be a better fit because they will not be asking for 10 containers or 40 containers, which our companies at some point are not able to source from the beginning, assuming that the price and the value is there. I'm not saying that they can be sold upfront, but these are better because you can test the market and have more manageable orders, and with importers that will take care of your product. Now, in general, what is happening, and again, this webinar is particularly difficult because we are again covering 15 different economies and we're trying to put them in the same bag. So I have to be very, very careful. But just to give you an overview of what happens, you see all these metro areas to the right. They may look like New York, Houston, or Chicago. They are Sao Paulo, Bogota, and Buenos Aires. So you see that again, the contrast and the perception of these countries may be more complex of what we initially could think. Again, this could be any U.S. city, but they have different patterns and they're different cultures. But basically, I'll talk about five key points. First is that the growth in general is moderated, but it's in line with all the region, 2.2 GDP. Basically, there's good domestic consumption. Investment and exports are stable, but there are different patterns between the countries. Brazil is growing. Argentina and Venezuela are not in a very positive situation right now, or very optimistic situation right now. As you know, Argentina is facing changes with the new administration, and Venezuela, well, we've heard about it. Basically, it's an economy that it's stagnant, or I would say in the brink of collapse, but it's not a market that could be developed in the short term. Brazil, Chile, Colombia, they're a different situation. There is inflation. There's an inflation challenge. And again, if we have to separate the countries, but in general, it was 8.5% in 2023. There are rising costs. There is a currency depreciation in general, which benefits imports from the US. Can you turn off your microphone? Thank you. And basically the inflation expectations that they have basically linked to the central bank's monetary policy, the interest rate in the US, and the potential impact of inflation to growth. So basically that balance is affecting all the economies, but it's nothing different than what has happened in the last couple of years. Again, this is this is an interesting time to be, and it could be similar to 2007, hopefully without the crisis that we had in 2008. But again, there's a lot of expectations, and there are some, there's a people that are conservative right now on investments in general. As I said, there's volatility due to the interest rate hikes or increases. The medium-term outlook looks positive, but there are things that have to be taken into account in geopolitical risks, elections, trade tensions, and I'm not talking about just the election in the US, basically the elections in general. One of each two voters worldwide are going to the polls this year. This is one of those years where every country, well, half of the countries in the world had an election. So that has an impact as well, in policy and in general in trade. But in the region, there were elections in Argentina last year. There are elections in October in 2024, not presidential but midterm elections. We just had elections in Mexico, but we're not counting them in the region, but also has some influence. And again, there's movement in the election, and basically it's in everyone's mind. The tension that the elections can bring worldwide. In general, the prices have supported the economies in recent years. Basically, you take Brazil, Chile, or Argentina, and specifically Brazil, they're a large grain grower and producer. So the prices have been stable, have benefited them, and have supported their economy in general, especially in the large grains industries. And again, we expect a short-term stabilization, but there is potential if the global economies or the global powers weaken. We're talking about China. Europe has been stagnant for some years now. But again, if opportunities arise, Latin America could be one of the choices. But obviously, there are some other markets that we compete with. And as I mentioned, there are some risks that I already talked about. Um, Now, what markets are relevant in this region? As I mentioned them, Brazil, largest in South America, rich in natural resources, nothing that I haven't said. But basically, its infrastructure and foreign investment are still have opportunity areas, and the regulations and international trade too have opportunity areas. So again, it it is a good opportunity in general, but again, international trade could be tricky, especially for your counterpart in Brazil. They have to pay 20% upfront, for any transaction, so that it has to be added up to the price. And also that, the paying in dollars can be tricky because of the banking system that they have. It has improved, but again, there could be some challenges there. And also, the cultural effect, that, basically in Brazil, everything is big. So if you have something to offer, it has to be good, better, and at some point not comparable to Brazil products, because probably they will take they will take that as a benefit. But again, I don't want to be, I don't want to generalize. Colombia is a stable democracy with a growing middle class, diversified economy, and it's working in manufacturing and renewable economy. They have a good retail base, and actually they're focusing on increasing the specialized retail, especially, mainly with a brand, a retail brand that I'll talk later, called Éxito. That is they have 50% of market share. And basically that's where our products from the Western US may come. Colombia is a country that generally has been overlooked by US exporters, and at some point it has been not really studied by US exporters. Actually, we have had trade missions in the past, and the Colombian buyers are a bit frustrated because the US counterparts, they don't even know where Colombia is, or they don't pronounce it right. And I've heard it twice. Um, Chile is also a stable economy with a positive outlook, as it says there. Uh, they are a major copper exporter, and obviously that helps them. That has helped them. And this is an economy that has relied on international trade for their own benefit since the 90s. You may have heard of Chilean wine and Chilean fruit. They are actually peers or competitors to U.S. products, and they are also, buying new products or bringing new products. This is a smaller country, but it's again, as I said, centralized. They have some cities, but I would say 30% of population live in Santiago, and again, they also have a good retail base that could be explored in good trade shows that we did with Busara. We suspended them in the meantime, but we're trying to get back and return to those. And finally, Peru, again, also growing. Business climate is improving. And political climate there has always been, I would say, challenging. So again, it's an economy that could be considered, but it's a small market. So again, that's something that we saw about 10 years ago, that there was a lot of um, noise or a lot of promotion about doing business in Peru. But again, it still needs some development that has to be that has to happen. Now, how has the economy moved in recent years? Well, basically, you see 2020 with pandemic. I mean, I'm not going to focus on the pandemic years, but you can see what happened pre-pandemic. So you had contraction in some of these markets. Actually, there were um, political uprising in 2019. Unfortunately, we had a couple of incidents, both in Colombia and Chile in November 2019, right before pandemic. But there were, they were looking for change, and they were, longing for change. And actually, they had elections in the meantime. But you can see in recent years, they have been rather stable. Brazil, Colombia. You can see Peru, with a small, contraction in 2023. And Chile, that had a rough year in 2022, they changed administration, I'm pretty sure. But now they're stable, and again, they're continuing their development. So you can start seeing, what countries can move. And probably I'll repeat myself with this, but basically is what we have. Now, uh, how are the U.S. exports to South America? I'll be I'll be clear. It's not the main trading partner, or it's not one of the main trading partners in for the US. There are horticultural, sugar, and tropical products in the region, or shipped to this region. In added value and wine and all the products that we have in Usara, they are not the top markets that we have developed in the past. I hope that that can change. And again, this is my opinion. It has been a historical fact, because distance is not short, and there are some markets that are more attractive to develop than South America. There have been trade missions going to Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Peru. You're organized by USDA. Actually, USARA has organized trade missions going to Chile and Colombia. But again, just as I said in other seminars, you need to define your market strategy and define if this is a good market for you. If you have a differentiated product that will pass the test of value for South Americans, then you have a good option, and this could be a good market for you. We have seen success with pet food supplements. We have seen success with dairy, with companies that actually went there and did the trade shows. But again, as I said, Latin America in general is a region that will not shop as a hobby. They will shop. We shop as a habit, and the habit is finding value in what we buy. So the price, we are price sensitive in Latin America, but also we like to find value. So again, if you have the right mix, this could be a good market. But I want to be clear, it's not one of the top markets. You can see them in the color, this is and also this is general U.S. agricultural import from others. So basically, this is what we have now. There are trade agreements in place, and also that benefits South America and its South American partners. You have Mercosur, which is formed by, as it says, Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Venezuela, which is a suspended member right now. But basically, you're talking with the large economies in South America, but Chile, and they are a large trade bloc, and they have a GDP with two trillion, could be a bit higher, but basically they trade and they have benefits between them. So when you're competing into these markets, you're not only, you're not only competing with domestic, you're only competing with these members that could have a benefit by being members of Mercosur. Also, Pacific Alliance formed by Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru seeks the free movement. It's more a project than that really implemented. And also the CAN, which is formed by the North South American countries, if that's a word. That's Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. Basically, also they want to integrate economically and have some trade benefits. Now, the U.S. has worked in the region with some South American countries, and you have here the the U.S. Chile free trade agreement that was signed in 2004 that is fully implemented. Colombia that started in 2012. There are some products that are still in transition. Peru in 2009, and I included Panama, but Panama is Central America. So again, you start to filter the countries that have better opportunity in general. We need to again discuss the the specifics of each product that you carry. Obviously, and this is more general trade agreement benefits. What does it increase? Basically, your tariff gets reduced. There's more investment, so companies can sell their products without restrictions, and you have more investment. That, in our case, it affects us with retailers. That's the first ones that will go there if there's a free trade agreement. So there are conditions to have a Walmart or have some other international companies accessing this market. Just to note as well, in this region, most of the large processors, especially in food and beverage, talking about Nestle, Procter & Gamble, Mondelez, Cargill, all of them are established and they have operations in all these countries. So it's not that we are going to come and sell them cookies and they're going to be amazed by them. They have known them for 100 years. But again, there's increased investment and you have these companies selling to these markets. Also, you have established supply chain that could improve. It's not going to it's not getting the products there. Is the last mile or the distribution getting to that, to the stores and to the shops. There's more growth and obviously lower prices for consumers because, they get more, lower prices as they don't have to pay tariffs or other costs of bringing imported products. But again, there are challenges. I'll skip the first one. But the two that come are the ones that we have to address in this or any other market. Increased competition. Local companies might find it difficult to compete with companies with stronger economies. But in our case, it's the other way around too. New to market products in new markets can have a hard time accessing with established companies because they can counter with promotion or they have the infrastructure or the local resources to make promotions and counters. So that's something that we need to take care into account. And again, this applies to any country. And also the perception of the imported products. Again, US products have a good perception, but it's not the main driver. We provide good quality products, but not just for being the US products are gonna drive consumption just because of that. It has to be accompanied by a good value, good quality, and a good story, and at some point differentiation from the competition. So those are the things that we need to take into account. Now, what are the hurdles that you could find in this market? And again, we can tell you this is very nice and this is very positive, but what we want to do with these seminars is to prepare you or ask you to prepare better to come to these markets. And I would go back. I showed a model in other seminars on how to access these markets. And it takes time and patience. That's the first step. And second is define your marketing strategy. This is not a Sunday afternoon market, and no export market is. It's just developing a new company on top of the one that you have. So you need to make sure that you find, what you want. But once you decide it, then we're here to help you and support you, make you successful. Now, what are the hurdles that you need to consider? Uh, First, tariff barriers. Brazil and Colombia have some tariffs for U.S. agricultural products. Uh, Colombia has done a better job, and basically that's because of the free trade agreement to reduce those barriers. But you need to take that into account, and we can help you checking what products have barriers or tariffs in what countries. Uh, it's not, I mean, it's not that detailed, but we can help you just, getting that information for you if you are considering this market in your strategy. There are some non-tariff barriers, and here as well, Brazil and Colombia have sanitary and phytosanitary regulations that could be complex and time-consuming. Registration of products is long. It takes, from 6 months to a year, and it's difficult. So that again, it takes time. And again, I keep repeating it, but I don't mean to discourage you. We want you to be prepared and commit to this market. Again, we've been doing this for 18 years. And we have companies that have gone through the process, and it took them 2 or 3 years to access these markets, and they're very successful. But basically, is that competition? As I mentioned, because of the geography, you will have competition from other members, neighboring countries, but also this is a very attractive market for some European items. So you will have Dutch potatoes or Dutch potato flakes. You have Canadian products. The logistics of shipping products from Canada actually makes sense to the Brazilian and then the Argentinian market. You may have products from ASEAN, from New Zealand and Australia. Basically, we saw that even though Chile and Uruguay are dairy producers, they're importing product from New Zealand, but they're also importing product from the U.S. But again, it's a market. Its geographical location also makes it very attractive because basically, you can reach them by sea to most of the ports that they have here. Currency fluctuations, they can fluctuate, and that can affect the margin, but on the other hand, can benefit them. So that's something that you need to work on and pretty much discuss with your potential importer. Uh, and probably the question will come later if we have an importers list. We don't. I mean, we know the importers, but giving you an importer list will be just giving you a phone book. So we ask you to think of your strategy so we can help you with the importers that we have in our database, but we don't want to give them just away like that because it will just lead to an unanswered email and a frustration from you that nobody in Chile answered or in Brazil answered. So there is some protocol that you need some introductions in this market that I hope we can cover in the next in the next seminar. Regulations, as I mentioned, we'll talk about it in the next seminar. This is more a market overview. They can be complex and time consuming, but once you have them figured out, it's just an easy breezy, but you need to get them done. Again, it's a new country. So it's not like in the US, it's not China. So each country has its own regulations. And the challenges that, transportation, cost, and time can be challenging. Especially also in consolidated products, but there are more logistical companies that are doing this LTL and consolidated cargo, which is pretty much what we're trying to investigate more and give you more options on how to ship the product from your facility to your client without having all the problems of the customs agent and the truck company and the ship company and the importing company. So we're looking into those options, and it'll take us a couple of months to figure that out, but we'll get that to you. Now, about consumers, this is when we were doing the research and updating this slide. Unfortunately, is not different to any. It doesn't changes from any other market. We're humans. There are specific traits and information about each market. But basically, you will see here that it's the same concept, obviously in a different environment and in a different market. Here they want value. Obviously, there's an increase of indulgence. And we have to consider the economic realities and cover and cultural vibrancy. South Americans in general, again, depending on the country, but are happy people. Some of them are more formal, some of them are more partygoers. But again, we need to understand each culture, and even that we cannot generalize and saying that Chileans are just that or Brazilians are just that. It's a market, just as in the US. So devil is in the details. So we need to take care of those details and understand the market better. And we give you sources so you can understand each economy. Value for money, as I mentioned, this is a trade for all Latin American countries. They want good quality and at affordable prices. More on day-to-day products, but if they buy valuable products, they want to find that value. They don't want to find it expensive. And again, some economies are different than the others, but some will have more long-term um, purchase value than others. And I don't know if that's understood. But basically, is that they will think more about the purchase, and they will rethink their purchase uh, when they are shopping, and that happens mostly in Brazil. That what we have seen. E-commerce is booming in South America. Smartphone phone penetration in all the region is about 75%. There are some countries, Brazil, I think 30%, Argentina 70, but still you have a lot of consumers that are turning to online platforms for convenience, checking prices, and also comparing the product selection. Again, similar to what we've seen with a South American dash each country, fill the blank turn. Sustainability, it's starting to grow. It's not the first option. It's not as you may have it in California, but they're increasingly opting for eco-friendly products, especially in packaging, and they're supporting brands with sustainable practices. Careful, this is not the main driver, but they're starting to look into that. This is similar to what we saw in organics recently. Organic is nice. I mean, it's good to have, but it's still not the main driver. Unfortunately, the day-to-day and the economy supersedes the benefit of our world in the future. So people are starting to figure that out, and we expect that categories to develop in the next years. Local preference, there is more national pride in this region than others, uh, and they will prefer locally made products. They are drawn to authenticity and quality associated to they think that they're more authentic and they have more quality. But if you offer a very unique, specific, and well marketed product, they will buy US products. It's not that they only buy local, they buy also from other countries and from other origins, but it has to be well communicated and well understood by the consumer. And also, health and wellness. South America, again, I can tell Brazil and Colombia actually are more focused on health and wellness, more options, food options, and prioritizing preventive healthcare and healthy products. Again, these three economies, I would say, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia, are the ones that are evolving more to and again, it's different, but it's closer to what you see in the US in retail or premium retail. Now, as I mentioned, on top left, you can see some consumer products that are made in Colombia. Those are basically, regular consumer products, industrial processed foods, but they're looking for functional foods and beverages enriched with beneficial ingredients. I'm Something that I would need to give you a warning. It's not water. It's not water with benefits, but there are some items that could help there. The adaptogenic market could be an option. We are exploring more on that, but it could be something that could be an option there. Natural and organic products across various categories. Produce is difficult, but also produce could be one of the leading categories that could increase here. But also, day-to-day organic products are being bought, but again, be very careful about the volumes and the market size that you could have. Locally sourced and sustainable items. Again, that's the national pride and environmental consciousness. Again, that's the rival to consider. Convenient and affordable options for busy consumers. Again, convenience is good, particularly in online grocery shopping and also in the in convenience stores. You know, they're making smaller formats. But here, this is where where we need to explore, and this is where we need you to consider how to access this market. Products with unique flavors that cater for a desire for exploration and of authenticity. So they want to explore products that are from our region, our Western region, and they're authentic. So they don't want a copy of what they already have. They want something unique or something that gives them a functional and an emotional benefit. That's where we can see opportunity and where we can, basically develop the markets. As I mentioned before, just to talk about retail, and we have only 3-4 minutes. South American is changing again after pandemic. More internet, more mobile options, a growing middle class. E-commerce is increasing as well, mostly for convenience, for pricing, and also they get more product selection. This is more on the premium product side. The stores are offering omni-channel experiences. Basically, you can integrate online and offline shopping. You are very, you are very used to having, self checkouts at the stores. This is new in Latin America. Payment with your phone, all those things that Whole Foods is actually making us used to, they're starting to get into this region. Walmart is helping, is leading the charge, especially in Chile, and yeah, in Chile is mostly. Éxito in Colombia is a bit behind, but they're starting to implement more and more omni-channel and e-commerce and modern checkout options. There's a lot of retail chains. I'll show a list, and also, retail represents about 40% of overall market. There is a large traditional market, but our products, our imported products, usually go to retail, unless you have something that could be a commodity or could be a day-to-day or a large commodity item that could go into mom and pop stores, but usually these products go to retailer or to specific importers or distributors. There are specialty stores in major cities, so you'll have your one shop or your organic shop, similar to what you have in the US, Mexico, and other parts of the country, of the region. Panama has some, Brazil has them, Colombia has them, Chile and Chile too, Argentina not so because of the economy, but they have this specialized stores that usually source from a large importer that source these type of companies. So this type of stores. And again, the grab and go that we see. So these are examples of retailers that you see. You see a Jumbo, this is in Chile, Carulla in Colombia, and I believe the one in the bottom is Pão de Açúcar in Brazil. Not sure, but yeah, it looks like. And here are the main retail stores and chains that you have in each country. You have in Brazil, you have Walmart, Carrefour, French, Casino, which is French as well, and local competitors, GPA, Cencosud. Cencosud is a Chilean holding, but they own some other stores. Colombia, you have Cencosud. You have Éxito, which is the largest retailer in Colombia. They were just bought by another group in Guatemala. So there will be changes, especially if you see this brand Éxito. There will be changes in the Latin America region, and actually they have contacted us to start developing options. Ara and Olímpica. In Peru, you see that. So you can see a good player is Cencosud that we also always visit when we go to Bogota. In Chile, you have Walmart. The fun thing here is that Walmart is not named Walmart. It's called Leader. In the bottom, you can see it. And Falabella, that has many stores. Actually, Falabella just accessed, well, they have investment in Mexico, so they're growing their share here. And also local competitors, which Cencosud is based in Chile, but you can see that they're all around the region. Cencosud is the Latin American Walmart, and Sodimac, which is more for house improvement items. And Argentina as well. And Argentina, again, nice market, good market, but tough market right now because of all the political changes and the economical changes that we have. I'll just go real quick. E-commerce, I'll just go quick on this. Pretty much what you see in other markets. But here, trade shows that are relevant for food and beverage in Latin America. Espacio Food Show, mostly for food service. They have also a food pavilion. They are sponsored by USDA. USARA is not doing activities there, but USDA is. So you could consider that trade show, and I'm not sure if Casey or Baman are here, but they've done the show, and actually it's a good show, and we've had success stories from this show. Peru, it's a show called Alimentaria, which is similar to it's a branch from the one in Spain in September. Alimentec and AgroExpo. AgroExpo was it's July. AgroExpo actually it's happening now. I think what day is it today? Yeah, it's happening now. And we just had Alimentec, which is in a food and it's an agro industry show. So they have local production and equipment, but there's also a food pavilion. It's more for consumer. Brazil Expo Super in Sao Paulo, and it was just happened, and also is the Latin America Retailers Association in Panama in September, which is more, the regional retailers association conference. Could be good if you're in town in Panama in September. And I think I'm missing CL Brazil. I couldn't find information on that one. I'm not sure if they're still making it, but that's something to consider. So again, there are trade shows now. There are resources here, and we'll make sure to send you the presentation in Brazil. And I just opened this real quick, and I hope I don't screw you. have all the information, the trade and the contact from for the agricultural trade office in Brazil. They have some information, and they have the contact here. So I listed that for all the markets that we just discussed here. So you have Colombia, Argentina, Chile, and Peru. Again, you can contact USARA, or you can contact us, and we can make some introductions. We know most of these fine people. So yes, we can help you connect. So in conclusion, it's a complex and diverse region with 4 main markets to explore. We talked about them. Logistics and trade barriers can be a challenge, and also there are cultural barriers that you need to investigate more. Specialized products and healthy products have opportunity as long as they have a value proposal. But as always, we always recommend you that you define your priorities and your market access strategy, because otherwise you'll make a trip, lose a week, and don't get back to this market. We need you to have, positive intent and actually make sure that you want to access this market, and we'll assist as much as we can. And also USARA, we are not actively doing any mission to the region this year, but we are increasing the reach so we can include more buyers from this region in upcoming trade missions. We have a trade mission going to California and Nevada next month, and we are bringing a Latin American buyer. I think it's from Costa Rica. But again, we're switching gears and trying to include more Latin American buyers to this type of events. And what we are doing too is that in December, I talked that we're doing a large event called the Outbound Trade Mission, Latin American Outbound Trade Mission, and we call it the Mega Mission. And basically, you will meet with Mexican buyers, but also we are bringing 5 buyers from Latin America so they can meet you in the same place, and also regional buyers from Mexico, so we can create this marketplace and you have more contacts in one trip to Mexico in December. That is up on the website. We have limited spaces, and actually it's filling up quickly as we do more events. So I strongly recommend you that you go to usara.org and check on the events that we have. And that's what I have. So